Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back to the Tidarium Hangar. Today I want to talk about Takara and their masterpiece releases, mostly about G1, for the remainder of 2021 into 2022. Kind of what they've announced, what they're working on, what we know they have in the pipeline, what they've officially sort of shown pictures for. Why does Takara matter? Why is it a big deal? Well, they are masterpiece. They own that franchise for the most part, and they are the big players. When they make a change, they make a move, and they do something different, the third-party scene follows. So they are the leader. Whether or not you think they're the best, they are the leader, and they do some great work. So we're going to talk about all this coming up. So first off, I do want to talk about their Seekers. Now, a couple of things I want to say that we've already gotten the Starcream, and so we do know that in October we're supposed to be getting the Thundercracker, and in January we're supposed to be getting the Skywarp. So that's kind of how it's supposed to go. That's the plan. One good thing about Takara is Takara usually hits their release date. So really close to the release dates. Maybe they have to push it a week or two back for whatever reason. But one thing Takara does way better than third party is hit their expected release dates. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Starcream because the other molds will probably mirror Starcream almost exactly. So now that it's in the hands of many reviewers and a lot of people have had their chance to check out Starcream, I really do feel like the community is a bit mixed on this figure. Some people are really upset that it does not have the whole waist swivel and the argument that, well, he never had a waist swivel in the cartoon. This is funny, there's an argument with that. There's also people saying that they're having stability issues with the feet, and then a lot of people really argue about the color. They say it's a little bit too dark of a shade of gray, and they like the lighter shade. Maybe we're just getting used to what we have gotten in the past. Maybe this is more toon accurate. So it's kind of, what part of the cartoon do you remember the most? And I bet you anything, they will come out with a lighter shade down the road, as in like another reissue. Another issue is that we've got two other contenders. Well, Make Toys has been around with their mold for quite a while. And they were kind of one-upping the 1.0 and the 2.0. And now, I don't care what Takara says, the mold they just put out is a 3.0 mold. And so when you look at this, I do think they did better than Make Toys. I think they did a lot of things better than Make Toys. I do like the color of Make Toys better. And I still think Make Toys is a decent option to have on your shelf. But here we are with a little bit better, and the proportions are a bit better. Now, some people also don't like the skinny thighs and all that. Well, guess what? We've got another option coming out, and the other option is Deformation Space. Deformation Space looks pretty good, but there are things to like more about Takara and less about the Deformation Space, and things to like more about Deformation Space, such as the thighs are better on Deformation Space, but sort of the way the chest and the arms look are a little bit more accurate for Takara. So there's a nitpick there. Well, there's another big issue here, price. Now, generally about $230 to $270 is what we're seeing around the different price points for these figures. There's three different ones that have been announced and three different price points, and they fluctuate based on where you buy it from. Now, Make Toys generally is about in the $150 range right now for the reissue. Some are a little higher, some are a little bit lower. And the Deformation Space came out at $130. So we've recently got the price on Deformation Space at $130. So what we're getting here is the new contender. How good's that going to be? We don't know. But it's worth the risk of $130 for a lot of collectors out there to have this. Another thing is Deformation Space is a little bit taller. So Deformation is going to be taller than either one of these, from what I understand. Now, nobody has this to review yet, so nobody truly knows, but that's the rumor on the streets. So next up we have Takara Skids, and that's another nice thing about Takara, buying an actual Takara product, is that you get to actually name it the character's name. So they name it Skids, and that's the name. But he's also going to get a couple of buddies with him. So Skids is due out in December, along with the Reboost, the red version, and so those are going to be in December. The good thing is they're priced at $89.99, and that's pretty much across the board. Some places might even be a little cheaper, some might be a little bit more. And then we're supposed to see in February of 2022 the Crosscut, the silver one. So they're putting out three different colors of this mold, and I think that it's definitely a good use of the mold. And there are a couple things you can do. If you already have the XTransBot Savant, then you could maybe get the red one only, or just get the silver one, or however you want to do it. That's a possibility. Or you just get it all three, or just get one and sell your XTransBots. I mean, there's a lot of different options you have there. So looking at the left, we have the Takara. On the right, we have the XTransBot Savant. And one of the things that people are saying about the two of these is, first of all, that Takara's going more toy, and XTransBot is going more toon. Now, we do know that XTransBot usually nails the toon aesthetic. So I think that is something that a lot of the collectors that go hyper toon are probably going to want to stick around with good old XTransBot Savant. But the new one looks good. I think it looks good. I'm not too tied to this character. I actually didn't have this back in the day, and I've only recently in the past couple of years picked up a vintage version of it. So for me, I'm not too tied to it. I could go either way, and I'm probably going to have both. So that's how it's going to work. Now that brings us to the Nightbird, and so this is going to be a February of 2022 release, and Takara's really good at hitting their release dates. The other thing about it is they've already made this figure, so the mold is already there, so they're just recoloring RC, changing up the head a bit, changing some of the accessories, and there's probably going to be a couple of parts that are remolded. I like a few things about this because this character in this figure, not only does she look pretty good, but she sort of matches the character, and the mold almost feels like it's made more for her than for RC. She looks like she's got those sides that's going to mount in her arms, and that's some kind of cool weapon storage the way they did that. So there's a lot of really cool stuff going on with this figure. So most of the time it does kind of bother me when they just do recolors of the same exact mold, but for this one you could tell that actually is an excellent RC alt mode, and the recolor to Nightbird sort of works. I don't think we ever really saw her transform in the show, and I don't think she actually was supposed to transform, but anyway, it's still really cool that she's got this cool looking alt mode, and I think the alt mode was one of the best things about the Masterpiece RC. One thing about the base mold of RC that they've already released, I'm seeing it pop up at a few places on sale for like $135, which is a pretty decent deal. I think overall she's a nice looking figure. She's a bit short and heavy in the backpack, but aside from those two issues, everything else about her is great. She does look really good in the bot mode, and the body parts and all that stuff looks really great, but she's an ultimate shell former. I just really don't know how you'd make this not a shell former unless you do something really crazy, kind of like what Fans Toys did with theirs, and that was pretty interesting. Also, the one that was made by MMC was pretty good also. But none are perfect. Next we get into the cliff jumper that they're making, and we've seen these pictures already in the news and all that stuff. But I do want to talk about this because comparing cliff jumper to the original mold that's based on it, and it's the Bumblebee mold, it is different. They are making a lot of changes to this mold, and it is going to transform slightly different too. The thing about this is I'm one of the ones that likes the 2.0 Bumblebee. The reason I like the 2.0 Bumblebee is because it actually looks better than the 1.0 Bumblebee. So I thought the 1.0 Bumblebee was just a little bit too stubby, I guess you could say. He didn't use the faux parts, and it was a pretty simple, easy transformation. That was nice. That was great. But now it's a little bit more of a complex transformation, and they use faux parts, and they try to match the aesthetic a whole lot better. They're trying to match the cartoon look so much better, but they didn't really. In a way, there's a couple of issues with they're not going with the blue windshield, and there's a lot of weird things that they're doing that they're leaving off in that release. I'm wondering if they're going to do it with this. Are they going to do that with the blue windshield kind of thing, go back to that like they do with the Plus with the cliff jumper, or are they going to match it to their Bumblebee? There's still a lot of questions out there because all we got these green images. So here we go with kind of the Cheebs mashup there of digibashing and stuff. But the bigger problem here is Fans Toys putting theirs out. And so for myself, who's in the camp of liking the 2.0 better than the 1.0 mold, still likes the Fans Toys more than the upcoming Takara. So it's really no contest when you look at these side by side. Fans Toys is going to win. It's going to kill it. And so it's kind of curious that they put these pictures out. I don't know where they're coming from, but these Takara green molds are coming out of somewhere, and Fans Toys just got to beat. And so is Fans Toys going to get theirs out in time? Is Fans Toys going to be like a 2027 release? Like, who really knows? Is Takara going to get theirs out, and then we have to wait 2 years for Fans Toys? So lots of questions still in there, but I think a lot of people are just going to wait for Fans Toys on this one. I probably will get it just to check it out. So we've got the Takara Raiden project still coming along, and questions about whether that's really going to be Masterpiece or it's not. And I think that we've heard it's going to be Chug, more or less. It's going to be more or less a chug version of a Raiden, but it's going to be in the new form, theoretically. We've recently received this picture of this Shakey. So the Shakey figure here, so it's probably going to be the first one that's out for it. Well, I thought it was coming as a set too. So that's another question mark. We thought it was all coming as a set. Is it going to come as a set? Are they going to put it out separate? So this is still interesting that's moving along with this project. And what we know about the new form of these combiners is that we're going to be getting a commander class version of the main leader bot, and then we're going to get smaller bots that are going to be deluxe versions. So I don't know how that would work with the train bot set. Like, that's an interesting question. Is that going to be with this train bot set, or are all the train bots going to be the same size like we used to have? So there's lots of questions involved in this, but it's still interesting that they're putting out the picture. They're moving along with this project, and so this kind of leads us into what Takara is spending, I believe, most of their time doing. I feel like Mainline is what Takara is doing the most. They are making the Hasbro / Takara Tomy products right now on the shelves. Well, okay, I'm sorry, that's a lie. They're not really on the shelves at Walmart and Target, but they're available for pre-order online at places. So the thing about it is that they're doing really good work. Now there's some stuff, there's some questions about some of the things that they're doing, like the extreme waffling of some areas that's completely unnecessary. But with all of this, I think this is some of the best work we've seen for mainline releases ever. It's really kind of exciting for any mainline collectors, and we're getting some of the greatest minds that are making these great masterpiece figures, and they're making them in the mainline, and they're making them a little bit more simplified in the transformation so that it can have a lower parts count, and so we can maintain certain price points. But you kind of see what they do when they start getting into the $80 price point with the commander class. They start getting really good. And so with the Titan class, they maintain the price point because they're big size, bulky, and all of that. So there really isn't a whole lot of excess engineering going on in that. So it's Takara doing their work with the mainline, taking up a lot of their time, which is why they only crank out about 2 to 3 G1 figures a year. So then again, they could have a whole other team working on their masterpiece than what's working on mainline. So that's a huge possibility always. But still, I do want to give credit to the company where the credit is due. I don't think Hasbro takes the credit for the mainline. I think it's all Takara. What do you think about these upcoming Takara releases? Are you on board with the Seekers? Are you getting the Skids? Are you getting the 2.0? Well, I guess the original version of Cliff Jumper. I'd like to know in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Titanium Hanger out.